You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on AngryMarks.com with Peter H. and Stevie J. Find them on Twitter at HardcoreCDN and at AngryMarks. And now, for all the news, reviews, and interviews in mixed martial arts, it's time for Glove Up or Shut Up from AngryMarks.com.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Glove Up or Shut Up right here at AngryMarks.com. My name is Peter H. I'm joined once again by my co-host from Omaha, Nebraska, Stevie J.
After the weekend of wrestling and MMA events that I watched, I feel like I got hit in the head with a boomerang.
Oh, that's bad, Stevie. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Bellator, we're going to talk about UFC, and we're going to get Stevie's breakdown of this weekend's Grey Cup here in Ottawa. Oh, no, we're not going to do that, are we?
No, but you can do it if you like. I won't stop you from doing that.
It's the biggest party of the year. It's our version of the Super Bowl this weekend. It's the Calgary Stampeders and the Toronto Argonauts. And let's put it this way. To briefly sum it up, Calgary has dominated the league this year, and they're opening up as 7-point favorites, but you kind of want to root for the underdog because it is the Grey Cup. So it'd be interesting to see. It's like, it'd be like the Yankees in the World Series, but it's held at Mets Field. It's like, do they still cheer for the Yankees, or do they cheer?
I don't know. All I can say is I'd cheer for Calgary because I got too many friends from out there. So that and the fact that Bret the Hitman Hart is probably either my second or third favorite wrestler of all time. Yeah, I'd go with Calgary.
All right, so let's start the show with UFC in Australia. And Stevie, you mentioned the boomerang, so we should mention that off the top. There was an altercation between Fabricio Verdum and Colby Covington, who he can't stay out of trouble, can he?
No, he can't. And this happened in an airport, so there were witnesses everywhere. There's security footage everywhere. People were live tweeting it. People were putting it on Instagram. It went viral immediately.
So there was something said, and at one point Verdum throws this gift bag at Covington, and when the bag hits Covington, a boomerang pops out. So the headline was, Verdum hits Covington with a boomerang.
Right, and that was a clickbaity headline in a lot of places because it made you picture in your head Fabricio Verdum throwing a boomerang, it spinning through the air and circling around and hitting Colby Covington in the head. And that's not what happened. He just takes his bag full of stuff, chucks it at his head, and it smacks Colby Covington in the face.
Very clickbaity indeed, but it's an interesting thing of the fighter code of conduct, how to act outside of the octagon.
Well, nobody knows how to act with this guy, and really, you can say there were words exchanged, but I don't think there need to be, because with Colby Covington cutting that promo that he did where he said, man, this place is garbage, it's nothing but filthy animals, I hate this place, I can't wait to get back to America. You know what? Every Brazilian he runs into is gonna want to take his head off now, so Fabricio Verdum is no exception to that.
Exactly, and I mean, I'm curious to see who he fights next, because everybody and their mother is going to want to fight him now, because it's the Mickey Gall thing all over again, where you want to fight the guy because you're going to be a name, you're going to be put on probably pay-per-view, and you're just going to be known as like the opponent, but it's a payday.
Well, you know what? That may be the reason Colby Covington has decided WWE sounds pretty good, and in a year I'd be ready.
I bet Dana White was thrilled to hear that.
I'm sure they've already had several discussions about that, but I would put Fabricio Verdum higher on the list right now, because even though Colby Covington is goading people into doing things, that's just not smart. When you're main eventing a show the next night for UFC, you gotta have a little more self-control.
I'm just surprised he mentioned WWE because of his affiliation with, I don't know, TNA.
Well, I think even Colby Covington can recognize that's like C or D league. For him, that's developmental territory. He's just learning how to be a pro wrestler on their time and their dime.
Well, I saw it in person. He definitely played the part in Ottawa for Bound for Glory, so.
That's where he's going with this whole Brazil sucks thing, is he's trying to build himself up as a pro wrestling heel, and it's working.
Now, if we could only convince Daniel Cormier to go with him and be like his manager.
That wouldn't take too much convincing, because Cormier loves pro wrestling.
Yep. So, we had a card in Australia. I mean, what can be said when every main event card goes the distance? This is one of the longest cards in UFC history.
No, actually it was the longest.
Oh.
It was 3 hours, 4 minutes, and 18 seconds of fighting. So pad that out with commercial breaks and, interludes, and we're going to post-fight interviews, and it was a super freaking long show.
Well, let's go with the main card here. Boy, oh boy. I mean, we have to talk about Verdum and Tybura.
This at least was a good fight, even though it was a one-sided fight, and even though it was yet another decision, 6 straight decisions on the main card, at least this one had some things going for it, because you had the number 2 heavyweight in the world versus the number 8 heavyweight in the world, and even though Verdum was easily the more technically skilled fighter, you were thinking in the back of your head, man, he's way older than Tybura. Tybura is this young, hungry lion. Maybe he's got a chance. And every now and then, Tybura would land one really good punch, and you'd see Fabricio Verdum kind of freeze up for a second, and then he'd just go right back into his rhythm of throwing kicks, kicking the guy in the head, grabbing the clinch, throwing the knee, jabbing him in the face repeatedly, and Verdum was just dominating him round by round, but every now and then, just like a pro wrestling match, Tybura would have these little hope spots. And in the 5th round, when Fabricio Verdum finally started to get tired, that was the moment you were like, if Tybura could pull the trigger, now is the time, because Verdum is slowing down. It's the 5th round. Maybe he's got a chance, but Tybura could never quite connect.
Do you think his weight was an issue? Maybe if he shed maybe 10 pounds, 15 pounds, he might have more stamina for the fight?
I don't know. I didn't think of Tybura as being soft. I mean, maybe he's not ripped like, say, Brock Lesnar, but I feel like Tybura was in good shape for a heavyweight division, because you got a lot of guys that are not going to be ribbled with a 6-pack of abs at heavyweight, so I didn't think Tybura had a stamina problem. I thought Verdum was, if anybody had a stamina problem, it was Verdum in the 5th round, but he had so convincingly won all the rounds leading up to that point that only one judge gave the 5th round to Tybura.
So we had 50-45, 50-45, 49-46. Let's move on to the co-main event here. It's Beck Rawlings against Jessica Rose Clark.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi.
Oi. It's interesting because it went to the judges and it was a split decision this time. And Jessica Rose Clark got 2 of the 3, 29-28. And one judge saw Beck Rawlings 29-28. I'm getting to the point where this fight I want to see again. It's not so much the wrong person won or the right person won. I think, no, let's do it again. Let's dance again.
To me, the most memorable thing about it was they gave the post-fight interview to Rose Clark, and the first thing she said was, "Man, I'm never taking another catchweight fight. I'm not taking a fight on short notice."
No, it was a valiant effort. She got the W here on short notice, and Rawlings, I mean, she could have done better, but you can't say, she.
Okay,
I mean,
I gotta interject. Here's something that I think is telling and also unfortunate, because you know me, I've been watching Beck Rawlings since she was Rowdy Beck Hyatt. I saw her in her Invicta days. She was a huge fan favorite. The crowds just went nuts for her. She's got charisma, personality, spunk, attitude. She's fun to watch. She's fun to talk to. But the one thing that she does, and she's been doing this ever since her Invicta days, is she tries to win standing and striking by walking in a straight line towards her opponent. And that's intimidating, but that's also really easy to read. If you know that somebody's going to come at you in a straight line and throw a punch, all you got to do is shift to the side and throw a leg kick. I mean, that is the game that Jessie Rose Clark played here. Is she was tactical and Rawlings was predictable. And I hate saying that because I like Rawlings, but she's got to do something. She's got to work on her footwork and her head movement and change it up a little.
I'm thinking when watching this fight that it was a page out of the Rousey textbook from her fight against Rousey's last fight, basically, where, okay, you're going to walk through the punches and then you're going to try something. It's like, no, don't walk into the punches because you're going to get hit and you're going to get hit hard.
It's similar, different, but I get your point. Is you get one move in your head and you're convinced to go for that move, then you're going to get caught in something sooner or later, or you're going to get knocked the F out. But, I mean, it actually happened in the Verdum fight with Tabora, but Tabora just wasn't good enough to stop it.
That's fair. Let's move on to the other split decision here. Back-to-back split decisions.
Three split decisions in a row.
Oh, geez, you're right. 3. Tim Means and Bilal Muhammad, with Muhammad winning 2 judges to 1. Same score, 29-28, 29-28, 28-29. Bilal wanted to make a statement here. I don't think he did that here.
Now, you just said you would have to watch Rose Clark and Rawlings again.
Yeah.
That one I was convinced Rose Clark won. This one I'm a little more iffy on, and the next one I'm very iffy on. I think the right man won here, but I'd have to watch it again. But I feel like their trajectories are at least trending in that direction where, like, Bilal is the young up-and-comer who's gonna be beating people you might not think he would, and Tim Means is kind of like the grizzled veteran where it's like, yeah, you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, you're kind of just always in there.
I feel that it was a fight. I mean, it wasn't like a boring fight. It was a good fight. It's just, I expected more from Muhammad here because he came in with so much confidence, I think is the way to say it. Mm-hmm. And Means, he's a tough cookie. So, I mean, if you have all that confidence, you think you're going to win, make a statement, show yourself that you belong in this weight class. I didn't see that. I mean, it wasn't a convincing win.
No, he didn't dominate Tim Means. The reason it's a split decision is because there's close rounds in this fight. You can see either way for either man.
Exactly. And it goes to show the toughness of both fighters here. Especially Tim Means, who you never want to underestimate.
I agree. But this next one,
well, yeah.
This Jake Matthews fight, this really feels like a hometown decision. I'm sorry to say that to Jake Matthews. It's not personal. I got nothing against the kid, but, I mean, he had lost 2 fights coming into Sydney, and one of them was in Melbourne, so he didn't get the hometown decision there in his literal hometown. But apparently in Sydney, he got a gift here because I had 2 of these 3 rounds for Bojan Milosevic, and I didn't even think it was close. I thought for sure when they said 29-28 that 2 of those 3 were going to him, if not all 3. And when Matthews got the split decision, I think there were actually some people in the crowd who didn't think the hometown kid won. I mean, he got a mostly good reaction, but not the overwhelming great job Jake Matthews that you would expect. I think some of those people felt like Milosevic won.
When they said 29-28, 28-29 and your winner by split decision, I'm like, okay, here we go. Jake Matthews. I'm like, wait, my TV must have had a shortened it or something. That wasn't the correct name to call.
Yeah.
But I agree with you.
There were definite times where Milosevic absolutely dominated Matthews. You talk about scoring rounds when somebody is fighting for the finish, and there were more opportunities for Milosevic to get the finish than there were for Matthews. I mean, Matthews was on defense a whole lot of the time in this fight.
Let's quickly move on to Elias Terodou against Daniel Kelly.
I gotta say you were right, but I also gotta say Dan Kelly, even though Teodoro was the better fighter here, and dominated this fight to the point he got a 10-8 from one of the judges. I still like Dan Kelly's fight in this fight, in that he never gave up. Even in rounds he was losing, he'd still look for a throw, he'd still look for a takedown, he'd still try to get on top. He never quit. No matter how far behind he was, he just didn't give up.
It was a great game plan. It just didn't result in the decision that he wanted.
No. He just got beat by a younger, hungrier kid, but I just take my hat off to him for grit and toughness in fighting in front of basically, again, hometown fans, home country fans. It was a spirited performance. That's the word I'm looking for.
That's a good, I could see that. And Alex Volkanovski against Shane Young. Another decision. Huzzah.
Yeah, well, Volkanovski clearly won again. We got judges giving 10-8s here, 2 10-8s in this case, but this one was probably just the most uninteresting of all the main FS1 fights because I didn't care about either of these guys. No offense, but it's a catchweight fight. Neither one of them are ranked. Neither one of them are gonna be ranked with a win. It was just like so many things that I saw this weekend. It was just completely meaningless. There were no stakes. There was nothing on the line. It was just a fight for the sake of having a fight.
Moving on to the prelims, there is one I do want to mention, and that is Will Brooks and Nick Lentz.
Okay, well, yeah, Nick Lentz with the comeback, I'd say come from behind win, because I actually have Will Brooks winning the first round, but when he caught Brooks in that guillotine choke, that was lights out, it's a wrap, and this is a bad look for Will Brooks at this point, because coming off of being a pretty dominant champion in Bellator, and not by beating scrubs, I mean, he was beating high-quality opponents in his time in Bellator, guys the likes of Marcin Held, Dave Jansen, Michael Chandler, Sadawad. It's not like Will Brooks was doing badly. He was a champion. He was a dominant champion. He left with the title. They vacated the title. But then, ever since that time, he had one win in UFC at Team Joanna versus Team Claudia Ultimate Fighter Finale. And since that time, he's been finished 3 times by Alex Oliveira, Charles Oliveira, and Nick Lentz. So, I'm starting to think Will Brooks is on the borderline for getting cut here.
Did you think you'd say that in 2017?
I didn't think so. I thought he would come into UFC and do really well, but I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure if he was taken for granted how good he was and didn't step up to the competition, or if it's everybody else stepping their game up because they're like, this guy's the former Bellator champion, I'm going to whip his ass. I can't say for sure which it is, but I do know that in this case it was personal between Lentz and Brooks because they had been teammates at one point and each one felt the other was being disrespectful by taking this fight. So Nick Lentz took this personally and he made it personal and delivered in getting that guillotine choke for the finish.
Does Bellator take him back?
If they did, he'd have to work his way up from the bottom again. Like, he wouldn't come back and immediately be on main cards. They'd be like, well, you kind of had some bad blood when you left. You said some things. You caused some problems. We let you go. We vacated your title. If you want to come back and be with us again, you can start over working the preliminary fights on Spike.com.
I mean, he's not long in the tooth. I mean, he's not like,
I'm not saying his career's over or anything. Don't get me wrong. Okay, he's on a bad skid. He's not looking good in UFC, but he's still an incredibly talented fighter, and he's incredibly young, and if he can get back to his old form, there's no reason to think he can't turn this around.
All right. So, as far as the card, other fights here, I mean, there were some interesting fights as far as finishes. Yes, there were finishes on this card.
All on
Brian
Fox
Benoit
Sports
won with
1.
the
Every single finish was Fox Sports 1.
Well, no, there was a split decision with Camacho and Brown.
Oh, that was actually the fight of the night, though. And I don't just say
Yeah.
that. I mean, it got the fight of the night bonus, only Frank Camacho can't collect because he missed weight. These two beat the bloody, ever-loving hell out of each other. This fight should have been on the main card. This fight is the one that people should have tuned in to see. In fact, I believe the announcers at one point during the main card were so frustrated, they were like, man, that Camacho-Brown fight feels like a lifetime ago.
I understand that, and there were a lot of people who missed weight on this card, and when I saw the weigh-in results, I believe when you posted them, I saw like that within the hour. I was surprised because it was like, usually when fighters are in another country, they acclimate to the climate and they get their weight down so that there's no like jet lag or anything like that, and the bodies are able to, cut that excess weight to make the weight. But man, there were a few here that didn't make it, not by 1 or 2 pounds. We're talking 4 or 5 pounds here.
Yeah, I mean, we had Jesse Rose Clark. We talked about that. Volkanovski, that was a catchweight at 150. Benoit was a catchweight at 129, and he won by head kick knockout in the third round. And Camacho, we just talked about that. That was at 160. And even on Fight Pass, Nadia Kassim and Alex Chambers was a catchweight at 120. So, yeah, if you want to watch the fights that have finishes, find a replay of FS1 because Tai Tuivasa got a beautiful flying knee knockout. Nick Lentz choked out Will Brooks, and Ryan Benoit hit a head kick of doom. So those are the three, and the Camacho fight was a bloody war. So all 4 of those fights are worth watching. Other than maybe the Verdun Tabora main event, you could skip everything else.
All right, so let's move on to Bellator from Israel, and let's go.
Speaking of skipping, you know what? I will say this. 3 of the 4 scheduled fights on this card had a finish, and they added a bonus fight that also had a finish. So in terms of actual viewership and exciting fights, I would have picked this as the better show, but I know it won't do as many viewers as the UFC show because UFC is UFC, and Bellator to do a good number usually needs like a really big main event, like a title fight, or a really big star, like a Chael Sonnen, or a Stephan Bonner, or, somebody that's got a name. And when your main event, again, no disrespect, I'm using that phrase a lot, but when your main event is Nawad Lahat and Jeremiah Labiano, forget about it. Nobody is tuning in for that.
Not on Saturday with the time delay. Friday, with the time delay, it's harder to get an audience, I find.
Yeah. Those who already wanted to know knew the results going in, and those who didn't, Lahat and Labiano was just not enough of a draw. But if you did tune in, you did get to see some fun, quick, exciting, action-packed, short fights. There was a lot of good, enjoyable action here. So let me take it from the bottom to the top, and I'll stop after each one, and you can interject what you saw or what you thought.
Okay.
We started out with Denise Kielholtz, who is a Bellator kickboxing champion, but had not won a fight before in MMA, so they gave her Jessica Middleton for a flyweight fight to see how she could do, and she did what she had to do. She hit a judo throw, put Middleton on the canvas, locked in an armbar. It was at a weird camera angle, so it was kind of hard to see, but she kept moving up bit by bit by bit, and Middleton was slowly losing the defense that she couldn't stop what was coming. And the moment, literally the moment Kielholtz snapped it on, Middleton tapped out immediately. She's like, I'm screwed. Nope, I'm not even gonna fight this. Tap, 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 tap. 1 minute, 16 seconds.
Kickboxer with a submission victory, and they actually call a scarf hold arm lock.
Yeah.
What the hell?
You can call it an armbar, you can call it a scarf hold, you can call it anything you want. All I call it is she whooped that ass.
And for someone who's a kickboxing champion, when the fight went to the ground, it's like, okay, let's see what she can do here. And it didn't take long for her to to finish here. It was amazing.
I really hate to say this about Jessica Middleton. Hashtag no disrespect, but she is the fighter that other fighters want to have a fight with because she's like an easy payday. I'm sorry, Jessica. I'm really sorry, but that's what you are at this point. You are at the flyweight other flyweights beat up.
So you're saying she's this division's Mickey Gall?
Yeah, kind of.
All right, let's move on to John Salter and Jason Radcliffe.
Now, this was a late notice change of opponents. Originally, John Salter was going to face Anatoly Tokov, who is this very, very hard-hitting Russian fighter who's knocked out almost everybody he's ever fought. But unfortunately, he had some sort of injury, undisclosed injury, still don't know what it was. So they had to find a guy who could make the weight and fight on short notice, who was available regionally that could fly in. And that was Jason Radcliffe, aka the Assassin. But this guy, you know, he had like 8 knockouts on his career record, but they weren't over big names or anybody impressive. And you just had this feeling that if John Salter played to his strengths and just didn't stand in front of him or walk at him in a straight line like I was talking about with Beck Rawlings, all John Salter really had to do is play to his strengths here, get the guy to the ground, and get a submission. And that's exactly what he did. Radcliffe tried to stuff a takedown attempt, but Salter just, sheer force of will, just pushed him down to his knees. And once he had Radcliffe on his knees, without ever really just double-legging him or single-legging him, taking him down, once he got him down to his knees just by pushing him down, then he was able to grab the legs, suck him out, and turn that into a takedown. And the moment that Radcliffe was on the ground, he was screwed because John Salter on the ground is a beast. He doesn't need to have both hooks in. He just needed to get one hook in, get an arm around that neck, and it was over. 1 minute, 55 seconds rear naked choke.
What else is there to be said on that one? It was Salter proving he's a beast, and I mean, how do you train for, like, if you're his opponent, like, what do you take from this fight to avoid?
Jason Radcliffe can take everything from this fight. He can take, not getting taken down, having a better plan than, stuffing a takedown, but letting a guy just pull you down. Maybe he needs to work on his upper body strength. Maybe he needs to work on his, evasiveness, his footwork. There's a lot for Jason Radcliffe to learn from this.
Alright, what about the co-main event here?
Okay, so we had Chaim Ghazali and Arsen Fajtovic. Now, Fajtovic on paper had more going for him. He's a lot younger than Chaim, who's like 44, 45 years old. And Chaim Ghazali's record is not that great. It's 7-4. Fajtovic is 4-1. So, even though Chaim Ghazali was the home country fighter in Israel, I was thinking, man, he didn't look good against Ryan Couture in that Bellator fight in June. So, all that Arsen Fajtovic has to do is just outlast him, let the old guy get tired, and then whoop his ass. But Chaim Ghazali had other ideas. I guess being in Israel really inspired him. It really brought out the best in him. And the best in him is that he is a 4th degree jiu-jitsu black belt under Renzo Gracie. So this guy knows his shit. If it was a jiu-jitsu competition, no problem. But in a fight, it hasn't always gone his way. This time, it did. Because what he did was get Fajtovic on the ground after Fajtovic made an ill-advised takedown attempt. And once he did that, it was all over because Ghazali wrapped his legs around his neck and got the triangle choke and finished him in 45 seconds. So, you talk about lessons a fighter should learn. Don't try to take down a 4th degree black belt in the first round and give him the opportunity to put his legs around your neck. Like, maybe wait a little while before you go for a takedown. Don't start out right away with a 4th degree black belt thinking, I'm going to take this guy to the ground. Bad strategy.
Now, before we talk about the main event here, you mentioned there was another fight that was bonus?
Yes, it was, I'm going to try to remember the guy's name because I've been doing this off the top of my head here. Nikulin, I believe it was Alexander Nikulin. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, he, was, there were a whole lot of fights early on in this card that could have been bonused onto the main card, but this one was a very impressive looking knockout. So I can see why they chose it. I can see Nikulin being a guy they would bring back for a main card after the way he finished this fight because he just looked damn good. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but 1 minute 57 seconds. And he was a little bit of an advantage because his opponent was 5'8" and he's 6'3". So height and reach definitely going to Nikulin in this fight. But the thing is, Nikulin, he had a really, how do I put this? It was like, he was playing possum is the best way I can describe it because he just didn't do anything, let Abuhov come at him, let him keep coming at him, and all of a sudden, he threw one right hand, bang! Like, he was just suckering the guy in and waiting until he had the perfect range, then he threw that one right hand over.
I thought they were going over the results, I thought they were going to talk about Kowlin and Malaku, because it was a flying triangle choke. Stevie, when was the last time you saw a flying triangle choke?
I can tell you, actually, it was Rose Namajunas and Invicta.
Oh. It's like a unicorn, you rarely ever see it.
Well, unicorns don't exist, but I get your point.
There was another one I did want to mention before we talk about the main event in this one. Sadly, this one did not go to the judges, and this one was declared a no contest. Gada Bisor and Alexei Trolimov. No contest. 1:20 in the first round. The fight was waved off due to an accidental groin kick.
Yeah, and they didn't air any prelim fights other than the one that got bonused on the TV, so I don't even know how bad this was, but it had to be pretty darn bad if they decided to make the fight a no contest. That's no bueno.
No bueno. Alright, main event time from Tel Aviv, Israel. It was Noad Lahat against Jeremiah Labiano, which we already talked about. This fight went to the judges, 29-27 across the board. Stevie, 2-1, I'm thinking was your consensus here?
Yeah, I believe so. I think the second round actually went to Labiano, which kind of surprised me. I wasn't expecting that. I figured that given Lahat was the hometown fighter again and the main event fighter, so to speak, I just kind of expected that things would definitely trend the way of Noad Lahat, but it was, you know what, Labiano, I give him the respect because he would try to keep Lahat close chest to chest whenever Lahat would get a takedown, so Lahat couldn't do that much damage. And then the second round, it was Lahat's own fault for hitting 2 accidental fouls. He kicked him in the cup early and then elbowed him in the back of the head late. So the referee, Kevin McDonald, had no choice but to take a point away, made the round even. And in the third round, I would say even though Labiano was not going to win the fight, he was, I would say he had his moments in the third round, like pushing Lahat into the fence and then trying to go for things when he had to stand up. And you know what? It was, I feel like Lahat could have gotten all 3 rounds except for the fact that he got a point taken away in round 2. But Labiano, he hung in there, is, I guess, the way I would put it.
That elbow to the back of the head. I mean,
it didn't look purposeful. It didn't look like he really meant to do what he did. It wasn't
malicious.
No.
It was something where I saw it and it was like, okay, like it was accidental, but with the other foul in the fight already that took place, it's like, well, you have to take a point away for that because it's 2 separate fouls now in this fight, and you were warned, right? So I feel bad for the guy, and hopefully the the Bellator promotion will give him a decent fight for his next appearance.
I agree.
Now, how was the crowd overall for this show?
It felt like they were pretty hot for it. I guess that they had promoted it well in Israel, and with Lahat and Ghazali on the card, they had local favorites. So, I mean, overall, it did well. I just, again, think to myself, for a TV viewer, it's not really like a, what I would call what's the word for it? It's just not a draw to a casual viewer. You're not pulling in the casual fans with Lahat versus Labiano. You gotta be somebody that either covers it for a living like I do, or you gotta be a really hardcore dedicated MMA fan. Other than that, that's not gonna do it.
No. We should move on to the news, and I hate starting the news with this, but it's something we have to talk about. A UFC fighter was arrested for domestic battery.
Once again, no bueno.
No, this is something where Volkan Ozdemir, more details are coming out this week, so we'll probably have a better idea in the next couple of days what the consequences are going to be, but he was arrested for domestic battery, and from the reports that I saw, it's not good at all.
No, and that's a very unfortunate position for him to be in, considering Cormier already said he gets the next title shot. So if this investigation leads to him being suspended by UFC, then he loses the title shot.
I think fighting for him is secondary right now. If he is, he's innocent until proven guilty, don't get me wrong, but the damage that is reported by the police, I don't think he deserves to be in UFC. Fighting in UFC is not a right, it's a privilege. And if you're doing this when you're not there in the cage, no. Sorry, no. We can't have you.
No argument.
It's something that I'm very strong about, and I was, honestly, I'll shoot from the hip here. I was disgusted when I heard it.
Not arguing one bit.
Alright. So, let's try to move on here. It looks like there's talk. I don't know how reliable this is, but they're rumored, because Whittaker is from Australia, they want to have GSP fight Whittaker in Perth, UFC 221.
I think that's wishful thinking, but I can also see them doing it.
It's something where tickets for Australia are it's a hotbed already. So to have it in the backyard of the interim champ, I don't say they're stacking the deck against GSP, that's not the right term, but it's something where they want to make Whittaker a star in the promotion by beating GSP in his backyard. That will do it.
I agree.
There was some talk about some volunteers for the Bellator Grand Prix. Some people were speculating that Jack Swagger, or whatever name he's going by now,
Jake Hager,
he might be one of them. I'm blanking on that. Shane Carwin. He's looking to be one of the names as well on the volunteer list, or backup list, I guess you could say. Alternate, thank you. That's what I was looking for. We should talk about ONE FC because this week's show has a very important fight on it.
Yes, the final fight ever in the career of Ben Askren. He is officially retiring, and if he wins, he can retire undefeated.
Which, if we talked about this before, if you're a fighter and you feel it's time and you have a game plan, you're only going to fight for a certain amount of time, and you feel that you have nothing left to prove, or you feel like your body can't be as competitive and you're taking the smart way out, I got nothing negative to say about that. That's a smart decision.
I absolutely respect him for making his choice, and you know what? It's been a good career for him because, even if he was to lose this upcoming fight with Shinya Aoki, it's okay because he's like I said, he's undefeated to this point in his career. He's got 1 no contest and 17 wins, so pretty damn good career overall. And he's currently the champion in ONE FC, so I 18-0, I mean, nothing wrong with that.
Now, before we start talking about this weekend's show for UFC, we do want to mention someone who got released from their contract this week.
Go right ahead.
Oh, I think you were the one who told me this on Facebook. It was Takanori Gomi.
Yep, the Fireball Kid got cut, which you can't really be surprised about given the fact that he'd lost 5 fights in a row in UFC. It was probably just about time.
It's sad when you see a fighter get cut, but in this case, it's like you have to win. You have to win a fight, I guess is the best way to say it. Like, you can't always lose and expect to keep your job.
Right. You know what? Before you move on, I just wanted to mention a few other fights on this ONE FC card, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
We got Adrian Pang, 22-10-2, taking on Amir Khan, 8-2. You got a guy that you might recognize his name, Leandro Issa, 14-6, taking on Daewon Kim, 12-1-1. So we got some pretty good fights on the main card of this ONE FC show, which is in Singapore, and it starts at 6:30 a.m. Central Time, 7:30 Eastern Time. So set your alarm clock if you're not doing anything on Friday morning, if you are a fight covering person like I am, and I'll be watching and covering it. So should be some fun fights.
If only there was a holiday on Friday that you could skip work for and watch fights.
Indeed.
Alright, so let's talk about UFC Fight Night 122 from Shanghai, China. Kelvin Gastelum in the main event against Michael Bisping.
Yeah, that's Silva's own fault, because he got suspended for, once again, taking something he shouldn't have been taking. Dumbass.
And the opponent here, Bisping, is, I don't want to say an upgrade, because, I mean, it's hard to say you're getting an upgrade from Anderson Silva, but you're getting someone who's fresh off a loss to GSP. He didn't take a lot of damage. It wasn't a 5-round slugfest. Yes, he did get choked out, but it's not like he lost because of a cut above the eye.
Yeah, but let's also be fair, though. He got choked out because he got rocked. GSP dropped him in the 3rd round and then choked him out.
The thing about the shot that knocked him down, I hate saying this because it makes me sound like a jackass, but he didn't see the shot coming. It's because of that damaged eye he has.
Right. It was perfect game plan by GSP. That's why he is the cerebral assassin of mixed martial arts. He out-game plans everybody.
And now Kelvin, who has power, decent power in his hands, if he takes that from the last fight, guess where he's going to pinpoint?
He's going to go for that exact same eye. You're right.
And Bisping, this is going to be his second last fight. So, on the Fight Pass, it's got that DVR functionality, so you can definitely wake up at your own leisure and throw this fight on.
Right. You don't have to rush to see this one. You can, that wasn't a George St. Pierre joke. I'm sorry. But you can watch this whenever you want to. You're absolutely right about that. So I'll tell you right now that Gastelum is the minus 325 favorite. Bisping is plus 265. And coming off a loss to GSP, that feels right to me. But Bisping does have pretty decent power in his own right. So all Gastelum has to do is just get into a phone booth with him and try to throw blows. And if he doesn't land that perfect shot you're talking about, Bisping could take his head off.
If Bisping wins here, imagine his post-fight promo.
He would probably immediately challenge GSP to get the title back.
Well, we talked about GSP's next fight, but who knows? Who knows?
Right.
Alright, so let's talk about the co-main event here. And this one here is very,
regional.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was looking for here. Li Jinglang against Zhang Atao.
Yeah, they're purposefully doing this to push Li Jinglang as a star in China. And it may just work because he's on a 3-fight win streak, and one of those wins was over Frank Camacho in what was, once again, a fight of the night performance for Camacho. So even when the guy loses, he goes out there and has great fights. There's something to be said for Frank Camacho. So let's see if the China top team fighter can go out there and take it to Zakatow and get the win in the co-main event and really put it on in front of his home country fans. But Zakatow is not a slouch either. He's won 6 out of his last 7, and the only one he lost in that time was a split decision to Sergio Moraes. So we got a very close line on this fight. Xinglang is the favorite at minus 170. Atao is plus 150.
Now, is China top team a sister camp of America top team?
You know, I can't ever figure that out because they do that all the time now in every international card I watch. It'll be like Philippine top team, Australian top team, China top team. I don't know if these are actual affiliates of American top team or not.
We should have Dan Lambert on the show to ask him that question.
You know what? That's a great idea. I'm going to put you on that. I officially commission. No, I'm dead serious. I'm giving you a task here. I want you to get Dan Lambert on the show. Set it up.
That's a task.
Come on, you can do it. You've gotten all kinds of people on this show. You got Robin Black on this show. You got Joe Martinez on this show.
I did. I got Patrick Cote as well.
Yeah, so I know you can do it.
I can try.
Tell him we're both pro wrestling fans and we love what he's doing in Impact, and that'll be our hook. It's like we can talk MMA and we can talk wrestling.
All right, so let's go on to Alexis Harris and Wang Guan.
Okay. Let's see what the odds are for that one. Plus 140 Wang Guan, minus 160 for Bruce Leroy.
I could see Bruce Leroy winning this fight.
Yeah, I could too.
Alex Garcia and Muslim Shalikov?
Close enough. Minus 185 for Salikov and plus 160 for Garcia.
Now, as far as the prelims go, I'm just trying to see if there's any names here that would cause any casual fans to recognize here. The first fight, actually, there's Chase Sherman. He's fighting Shamil Abdur Akamov. And also Cyril Asker against Hu Yaozong. So that's the first fight on the prelims. But as far as the main card, it's a Fight Pass card in China. So, I mean, look forward to the 3 main fights we talked about. Garcia and Shalikov could be good as well. But it's not stacked like previous UFC cards recently.
No, this is potentially better than the Sydney card because not a lot of things could be worse, but it's definitely not a big name card other than the top fights.
And before we wrap up the show, Stevie, I want to ask, did you ever get an update on Conor McGregor about his actions in Bellator?
Last I heard is the same thing you heard. He was pulled from UFC 219, but then again, we never knew that he was supposed to be on UFC 219, so that may have been a token gesture. It's just really hard to say what that actually means.
All right. Well, for Stevie J, I'm Peter H, a hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening. And as I always say, never leave it to the judges. Good night, everybody.
See ya.